Hey, I've been thinking a lot about the cloud.
Of course you are. Your head is always in the cloud.
Oh, come on. I'm serious. The cloud's here. Lots of our customers are either managing our applications in the cloud, or they're managing a hybrid on-premises plus a cloud environment. And I know lots of people are just trying to figure out what should they do.
Yeah, there's still a lot of confusion about what that actually means to those of us who will be managing and monitoring the applications that will possibly and probably go into the cloud.
Right. Well, here's the good news. We can monitor all of those things pretty much the same way we do today. We just kind of need to adjust our thinking about the new architectures that are the cloud. Mm-hmm. So let's talk some about how do you actually get workloads from on-premises to the cloud. And then let's look at how you can monitor, how you can actually use a monitoring tool like SAM to monitor a workload on premises and in AWS.
Sounds good.
So this slide here are the pretty well accepted cloud models, cloud deployment models. We always have to compare it back to on-premises models because that's what we're used to. That's how we know how to monitor. That's how we know how to manage and build and architect. So for us on premises, we're used to managing everything. We can put agents on the hardware. We can listen to SNMP or WMI signals coming back from different applications and different hardware pieces. So we know we manage all of the hardware from the network, the storage, the applications, the servers. We manage the virtualization. We get to pick which hypervisor we want to use and how we're going to manage the virtual machines within that. We manage the operating systems, the application, of course, the people, and most importantly, the data. Right. And as data center people, that's what we're really interested in, that data. How does that data flow? How do we manage it? How do we keep track of it? Which is why monitoring is so important, right?
Exactly. Now, how do you actually start moving applications to the cloud? I think that's a lot of confusion for customers.
There definitely is, and there's a lot of work that's involved that you really don't think about at first glance.
Right.
But this is where monitoring comes in, which is kind of cool. So the first way that you can move applications or workloads to a cloud is what some people call lift and shift. Right. And that makes it sound super simple. It sounds like you can just take your VMs that you have your applications living on from on-premises and port those over to a cloud. Boom, they're working. Your applications are in the cloud.
Right.
It's not really how it works. You have to design your virtualized applications on premises. Then you have to figure out how you're going to put those into a virtual machine, usually called instances. So a lot of that is, the first step is, what are your applications? What do they do? How do your users use them? How much bandwidth is involved in using them? Right. How big are they? How big do my virtual machines have to be? And then looking at a cloud provider and deciding, well, what size instance do I need? How big does that need to be? What happens to my databases? Should I use the native databases? Lots of things to think about besides just lifting and shifting. You can definitely just say, hi, application virtualized on premises. Let me fit you inside a virtualized machine on a cloud. Might not work as intended, so that's the whole thing around it. Monitor that, see what you've got, make smart decisions before you move them up there.
Okay. So the second way is obviously a term that's out there and it's kind of grown with cloud is cloud native applications. So what are really for a lot of users, what are cloud native applications?
So cloud native applications, instead of trying to retrofit an application that was really a 3-tier application that we're used to doing on premises, instead of trying to retrofit it, build it again from the ground up. This way you're using you can take advantage of all the cloud providers' virtualization, of their storage, and all of the other services they provide in the background to do things for you. It's a little more work, but in the end, for that application, if you've evaluated it, you've monitored it, you know what it does, you know what it takes to fulfill your business requirements, then you know what you have to do in the cloud. So it might be the right thing to do for that application.
Okay. And I think the third way is it ties back into the architecture, software as a service.
Right, and we kind of talked about what that is. You don't have any control over anything anymore because you're expecting your cloud provider to do everything for you. But then this again is, go back to your monitoring, go back to evaluating your application. Is this the best thing? Should you allow that much control to a cloud provider? Is that the right thing to do? But it's all about monitoring in the end, figuring it out, doing that inventory.
Absolutely. So Gina, we covered the architectures of all the different architectures in the cloud. We've talked about different ways to move your workloads into the cloud. Now, some of the key parts that I know a lot of people are trying to understand is saying, I'm still going to have stuff on premises. I'm going to be doing stuff in the cloud. So how can I get them to, what are good examples of on premises and cloud working together for me?
Okay, well, we can talk about that, but first we have to keep in our minds this is not automagical. Nothing is, right? So it involves a lot of pre-work, during work, post-work to keep everything running properly for your business.
Right.
One of the easiest ways I think a lot of people are doing this because it is something we're used to doing on premises is using the cloud for HA, high availability and disaster recovery.
Right.
So what that means is you'll just take the virtualized versions of your applications that are running on premises, you'll figure out how to duplicate that in a cloud, and you'll sync the data that's being created on premises. And then if something bad happens, something catastrophic, you can make that cloud environment your primary data center.
Right.
So it's just like how we've always done remote data centers, right? Yeah. It's difficult and it's a little different because we don't control the architecture. Right. But here's the thing, we can monitor that with SAM, which is really cool. We can watch what's going on. Hey, I need to fail over. Hey, I need to fail back. So it's great.
Exactly. So I know another one is called cloud bursting. So what is exactly cloud bursting?
So cloud bursting is less of an investment in the cloud environment.
Okay.
So what you would do still is you'll want to duplicate your environment, your web environment that you may have on premises to the cloud, and you'll need to have that as a backup just in case you need to burst. So bursting is this. Think about if you're a small business and it's Black Friday, but you have an amazing something to offer and you market it and everybody starts hitting your little tiny server.
Right.
And then your server becomes completely swamped and it can't fulfill all the requests and you watch the business float away.
Exactly.
If you've prepped for cloud bursting, you can change that traffic from looking at your on-premises environment to go to the cloud. You can burst to the cloud. And then when that extra load goes down, you can burst right back.
Okay.
And the cool thing is, you can watch all of this with SAM. When do I need to burst to the cloud? When do I have too much load? Is it time now? Burst on over to the cloud. You can watch those applications in the cloud as well and know when it's time to fail back over.
So I think we have a video that actually shows that.
Would you like to see it?
I would love to see it.
Let's watch it. So what we had is a 3-tier web application. It is a little store. And as you can probably tell by looking at it right here, we've got a ton of load on this little application.
Right.
So we can see it's looking at AppStack now. It's looking at the physical environment. You can see the transactions where they went from yes to this is not good.
Yeah. And so with that, obviously, I see this information and I see, hey, I've got a spike. It's 8 in the morning. Everybody's coming back from their overnight shopping and they didn't find it at the store, but they're going to my website and doing it. So, when that moment happens, what do I need to do? The great thing is I see it. What do I need to do to start moving it over?
So this is all in the back end, and this is, again, the not automagical piece.
Right.
It'll depend on what kind of web service you're using and all the rest of it. In our case, we're using Tomcat, so we just changed the Tomcat scripts to point at the cloud. Would you like to see how it looks once we put SysLoad over to the cloud?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's see it in the cloud.
All right. So here's SAM. Again, as you can see, still has a lot of activity going on.
Right.
But the cool thing is everything is green in WPM.
Yeah, so obviously, and then we can see here when that workload was going on, when it was on site. So it's not going to change the record for me. I'm going to be able to see the records across. After I move it, it's going to show it because it's still that application.
It's still that application. But we are monitoring different hardware. And we're not actually monitoring the hardware. We're monitoring the virtual environment, the instances on the cloud. And this one in particular is in AWS. So we're able to do that a couple of different ways. SAM has agents now. You can use those agents to get that information, and it'll bring it back to you so you can monitor it as a node. We can also right now, if you have a VPN set up between your SAM environment on premises and your AWS environment, it'll just look like a different subnet, and you can use all of the telemetry to get the information down into SAM. So you can monitor these all together.
That's awesome. So obviously, this is a good example that we've kind of preset here to show, hey, this is what happens with cloud bursting. What would be a key part you would tell people to kind of start with this? We talked about the lift and shift. should they automatically put their entire corporate website on this, or where would be a good place to start?
Well, if I was doing it, the first thing to start is do some analysis. If you have SAM, you can look at all your on-premises applications and servers. Do some analysis on those, see exactly how your users are using them, what the load is on them, how big those servers are, and then go talk to your users. What do they expect? If you can find a small application maybe to experiment with that doesn't have a high priority with the organization, you could try some of these things to see for your environment, what are those background things going to be? Because we didn't even talk about changing DNS or any of the other things that will be hiccups anytime you move from one environment to another, let alone when you go to the cloud.
Gina, that's pretty cool. I'm already thinking of things I can start experimenting with.
That's awesome. Just remember, you've got to do that due diligence with monitoring before, during, and after you do anything.
Right.
So we'd love to hear from y'all. How are you planning on moving your workloads to the public cloud? Are you already using AWS to provide applications back to your business? How are you monitoring those apps? Let us know, and let us know if you have any questions or want to tell us more about what you're doing. We want to hear. Thanks.